still can't handle my money. Yeah. So I'm Ramon.
I'm Kia.
So today she a little low key upset because I threw a little wrench in what we was gonna do. But today we're gonna be talking about finances. And so there's multiple ways to do something right. There's multiple ways to do something wrong. And we're gonna touch on those ways to do something right. And then toward the end, we're gonna touch on some of the bad ways to do it. So I'll just go ahead and start off with my background. I grew up always hearing about save your money, save your money, save your money. But I didn't quite understand what that meant. So I interpret that as saving my money just so I can spend it later. I say that because in my family, we've all said that, but then when you ask them, well, how much money you have saved up, there's always this exactly dead silence. Or it was well, I had, but see what had happened was, or I'm a saving up for a rainy day, and then the rainy day come and they're like, hey, can I hold something? And those things start to perpetuate. And so as I grew up, I learned that there were other ways to do it. And I'm gonna touch on those in a little bit in our episode. How about you?
So my background is complete opposite. My father was basically the breadwinner. My mom had a few jobs in between, but my dad was all about save your money. Your money has a place in the future. You need to make sure you're planning and thinking about what you're going to do with your money, and that's how things were instilled with me. It was even at the point of maybe 5, 6 years old, we had piggy banks, and say, for example, we would go to the store and we didn't bring our money with us. My dad would actually write an IOU and make us pay him the $1.50 or $2 back to understand the value of money, and that you just don't get things, you earn things. And we also did not obviously have a job, but in the house, if we did this type of cleaning, we received this. It wasn't an allowance. It was something that you had to earn and receive. So my picture of money is you work for it, you keep it, and you plan for the future for it.
Yeah, you plan for the future, Mom. My family's like, yo, you saving up for a retirement? They were like, yo, what's that? We didn't think about that stuff.
Let me say one part about that too. Mm-hmm. So for my dad, it was the way my dad explains it as his plan for the future. But I do feel like in between that, there was a loss of the now of, hey, you should go on a trip, or hey, you should treat yourself. It's all for you need to be prepared for the worst. So I was always saving, and I remember growing up as a kid, and I had a job at 16, and did a little, I cut grass, I mopped people's floors, I was doing nails, I was doing a lot, save your money. But it's like, I'm saving, but I don't really know what I'm saving for, and it didn't make sense. But I'll say when I went to prom, so my parents didn't pay for any of that. My dad didn't feel like it was a necessity, but it was important to me.
That's fun. That's a field trip. That's something.
Yeah, my dad, and he didn't. I'm not gonna say he didn't believe it. I'm sure if I just flat out did not have the money, he probably would have paid for it. But I think it was something in me that felt good, that I could actually say, oh, I paid for my dress, and I paid for my prom ticket and my rental car and whatever else that I wanted for that prom. I remember my dad even telling me, to this day, he brings up, do you still mad that you paid $320 for that prom dress? It was good then. I was happy to pay $300 whatever the prom dress cost. But for him, he just put value on money in a totally different way than I would say a lot of people I knew growing up. So for me, and the way I was raised, it was money has a plan for the future. And to his point, saving is important, but you need to look for what your plans are to utilize that money for the long term. Because
I definitely was like, yo, you got money, you see it, you want it, buy it, own it. That's that. Y'all know about that. She's from Texas, that little flip. But that's what I kind of grew up on. If I had it, I spent it. And then when it was gone, I had money in my savings account. So guess what I did with that?
Spend it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It was gone. Got my money, and I was gone. And then when I was broke, honestly, that's what I was used to. So I got back to a sense of normalcy, which is bad because I was so used to being broke that when I had money, I spent it like a person who never had money.
And I can say, as I started to grow up, I've never been a place that said, oh, I ain't got money for that. I can never say there was a time where I said I didn't have money for that. Now, did I want to spend my money on something? No, but if something come to shove, a tire blew out, or I had to pay tuition or whatever for class books or something when I was in school, it won't never question about if I had the money to do that, because I guess that saving, as my dad said, I didn't know what I was saving for, but eventually I got to something, and emergencies were never an issue for me. So I never was a person who said I don't have it. I've never overdrafted on an account. I've never been late to a bill. I've never, like, that's really how I see the concept of money. When I owe something, like my credit card, a good point, I pay, my credit card has never hit like what's the high balance on it? Like
I don't know the high balance.
Like you have a max balance? I never maxed on a credit card.
Maxed it out.
Yeah, I've never maxed out on a credit card. So basically I pay what I spent for the previous month. So I don't spend what I don't have.
Yeah.
Like
so
to this day.
In essence, she grew up well and I grew up not so well because I've maxed out credit cards. I've been late for stuff. Yeah, I did all of that. Like, I've made all the bad decisions and learned from them the hard way. Good thing your dad taught you better. One day, maybe my dad will teach me something. I'm sure he's not listening to this podcast. All right. Oh, my heart. All right. So, after your foundation, what have you learned in your adulthood with your finances?
That goes back to how my dad, growing up, we didn't take trips. Was Buffalo, New York. That's where his family's from. That's all I can remember. We might have been to the Outer Banks, which is all driving distance from where we're from. So I felt like, as an adult now, I want to spend my money. I want to do something with money. I want to have experiences. So experiences mean more to me than stuff. And I'll definitely say that I learned that around 25, but kind of basically when I met Ramon, I feel like I saw how he was kind of doing things that made him happy, but I always held back. I mean, even down to like, do I want to get these 16-inch bundles or do I want to get these 22-inch bundles? Well, the 16-inch is cheaper, but the 22-inch make me look better. So it's like that far where I think that deep, where it's like a $50 difference or something. I'm being exaggerated, but it could be like a $50 difference. But I evaluate my purchases so deep like that to make sure that I'm making the right purchase. I forget about what makes me happy. So after 25, I would say I started to do things that make me happy. I started to travel. Went out the country for the first time at 25, which is, to me, is still crazy, but hey, it is what it is. And then after that, I was like, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was traveling, booking flights. My dog been on the plane more than some adults. So like, I was having a good time. But it was, as like I said, as an adult, it would be more so saving for, make sure you're saving for a reason, but also having a saving for a backup plan. So those things that my dad taught me will always be valuable. The part that I put a twist on is enjoying myself in the process, because saving and being unhappy, that just doesn't equal a good life, in my opinion. And it wasn't like I was supporting anybody but myself at the time, and I didn't have really any responsibility. So for me, that's what I would say as, I guess, an adult.
I remember when we first started dating, and you was talking about saving money, and you was talking about how I just spend money frivolously.
That was my frivolously.
You just frivolously spend money.
I couldn't understand.
And I'm like, I don't think it's frivolous. I've saved money this month. And I was kind of getting out of my phase of saving money to spend money later. So for me, I learned that my money has a purpose, because all those bad experiences and influences and all those things those tendencies that I had, they still with me. They didn't go anywhere. Like, I still have them in my back pocket, and I can pull them out whenever I'm ready.
Oh, we need a 65-inch TV,
Whenever I'm
75-inch
ready.
TV. When the 55-inch works fine.
I've learned restraint. So I still have those tendencies, but I realize that my money has a purpose, and whenever I do things now with the idea, what's the purpose for this? What's the purpose for that? When I put $100 over there, why did I do that? What's the plan of it, in that account? If I do put money over here, what's the plan for it in that account? I've learned how to diversify my funds so that I don't become a victim of my environment again. So,
well, your environment is different.
Yeah, my environment is different now, but I'm talking about where I grew up and how I grew up. So I don't want to become a victim to that because I know it's in my DNA. And so since I know that, I have to consciously make those decisions. Every time I get paid, I just go ahead and put money in my different accounts to make sure that I am accounted for and the things that are important to me are accounted for. And that's how I've been able to continue to move forward. Now, yeah, when me and her first started dating, I would spend money in her eyes frivolously, but she was super cheap at that time. So, in her eyes, I was doing things wrong. But in my eyes, I was doing things that made me happy. And so I realized that there's a kind of a balance. You need to save money for those rainy days that she just spoke about. Because when something happened to your car, and it could be anything, or your house, or your children, yourself, you have to be able to have something set aside. And I know people say it's like 6 months of your income supposed to be saved, but being realistic, ain't nobody got 6 months of their income saved. Not unless you're making a conscious plan, and that's still hard. That's mad hard. You may have.
I mean, I had it, but.
Yeah, okay. For regular people, I'm talking to regular people. People ain't got it. That's like, you'd be good if you had a month. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's good. I remember a news article saying that less than 25% of the population has 2 months worth of savings in their account. And so my thing is, like, you have to strive to try to get to that point. And then you can start talking about other things. Then you can start talking about doing things to your home and put money away for your children's education and stuff like that, because it just goes deeper. It just goes into one of those rabbit holes where you just need to put money here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, let me just ding in on that to your point. So if you don't have that 6 months, 3 months, whatever it is, worth of salary, and something happens to your job, or you get sick, or you can't work for a short period of time, all that money you were putting in other places before, traveling and even your child's college or whatever the case may be, how are you going to now sustain yourself? Because now you don't have that backup plan. So kind of going to what Ramon said, you really have to have that set, and then the fun can begin.
Yeah. Because
when you're set there, you don't really have to think about it. You don't have to put as much money in, or you can put smaller amount, because I guess it all depends on your industry and all what you do, but there's probably not a high probability you won't continue to have your job. There's just unforeseen circumstances like COVID-19. So you need to be prepared and prepare yourself. So maybe for a short period of time, you pull back on that fun, you pull back on those nights out to eat, that Starbucks coffee. So within 6 months or a year and a half, you'll have 6 months worth of income to be able to support you if something go wrong. But look, after that year and a half, go and live your whole best life, because now you got a backup plan. Like, don't feel like I can't do it. Just think about, hey, the short term, I knock this out, and then after that, I'm good to go. But you gotta get yourself mentally prepared for that.
Don't pay the minimum on your credit card bills. They're just gonna get you in the long run. Look, I'm not a financial advisor. Not. If you need one, if you think you need one, go and get one. Okay? Just go and get it. Because if you were like me and you didn't know anything about savings accounts, and like if you don't know what your savings APR is right now, then you got some learning to do. Because if you're making the minimum payments on your credit cards, you're gonna be paying that thing for years. Like $2,000. Like if you make the minimum payment, you may be paying that thing for 10 years.
A lot of stuff.
Student loans. Like don't do the minimum.
You pay a card. We all know cars are basically when they go off the lot, they lose their value.
Appreciate.
So then you're gonna pay the minimum payment, or like they give you some crazy high interest rate on the loan, and then like just think about think long term. Don't think for today and my payment's gonna be this amount, so I'm good to go, but you're paying it for 10 years. So like just think in the long term of the benefit, and that's exactly what I do. I guess I'll be real quick. One example is our car insurance. So we shopped around car insurance, found the cheapest car insurance, but I don't know if people know, if you pay in a lump sum, you basically save like 20% or something. It's pretty high, maybe 15 to 20%. And with that save, like I know everybody can't make that large payment every 6 months, but basically I save just like I would be making a payment every month for that, and I put it to the side, and then when that 6 months come, I pay that payment, and I'm saving like 15 to 20% of what I would need, I would need to have. So just kind of think in the long term and not today.
Yeah, I tell my family all the time, you'd be surprised how long you can just put $25 to $50 just away in a CD or in an IRA or something like that, and just forget about it. Just put it there and forget about it, and see where it's at in 5 years. Like just forget about it. Hell, see where it's at in a year, and then you'd be like, oh snap, I got that much over there. Yep. Save for your retirement, because you're not getting any younger. So those some plugs that we had to just throw out there.
Yeah, because it's an emotional place. But as an adult, we started to evolve. We saw other people. We took things from what we were seeing, what happened. Sometimes you learn and you fail, and then you got to take from that and grow. Sometimes you have great backgrounds and you can travel that over, and then you have people that help you adjust your lifestyle to what makes you more happy. So it doesn't happen overnight, but I do think it's ongoing. So as adults, we changed, and it wasn't the same way necessarily how to grow up. And if we can make that change, you can make that change too.
So how do we do this? How do we bring our finances together to become one powerful unit?
Baby!
Looks can be deceiving. But what I did was I came to her after a lot of thinking. This was after I came back from being deployed. Thinking about this for almost 3 months, like how I'm gonna tell Kia this, because I know she's not gonna like it. So I sat her down and I was like, hey, how do you feel about us combining our savings accounts?
Yeah, my eye was twitching. What?
She didn't say it out loud, but I heard, please. And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, no, I delivered this one pretty well. And babe, just tell them what happened.
So I actually was not that bad, but I did say, I need a moment to think about it.
How long did that moment take?
It was a couple months at first. I said, I need some time to think about it. Can you let me think on it? Let me figure out, how I feel about that. And the reason I felt that way was because I felt like I saved all this money. I worked so hard. I did it on my own. It was my money. But what I forgot, I'm married to somebody. Like
me.
I have a whole husband, and it's not just about me anymore. We came into this as a partnership, and we work together to build together. So everything I've done, it's ours essentially. So yes, I make my own money, or whatever the case may be, but we have to work together to grow that and find ways to help each other out. I guess in the long term, that's where I'm getting with that. But so originally it was a big no for me, and I was very scared. I was scared that
hell no to the no, hell to the no.
Basically, that's what it felt like.
That's what it was.
Yes. And I talked to like a few people trying to get their perspective, and what they were saying just I won't feeling it. I heard, how people did their situation. They paid bills in a certain way, or they had a special account for certain things, and or they just did it completely separate. But all in all, it just wasn't what worked for me, or what they were saying wasn't getting. I guess I wasn't getting no warm and fuzzy. But I sat back and thought about it, and I'm like, okay, you are married to this person. You didn't marry this person just for fun. But what can we do together to build on our financial wealth and our financial well-being, essentially, at the end of the day? So that's where that conversation went. It was a no for me at first, and then I changed my mind. But how we decided to do it was we have our own separate accounts, but we have a main savings, and we have a savings that will set us up, as I said, that's 6 months worth of what do you call it? Of income for if something was to happen that will support our household for a long period of time. So we are still working to get to that point. But when we went in, I probably put 75% of, I'm not putting a dollar value, but I put 75% of what was already in my savings into the account. Because I had, at the time, had the ability to save more than Ramon could save. Ramon does pay the mortgage here, which I do not pay. I pay everything else, as we say. But he does pay the mortgage. And at the time, we didn't have cars, or did we have cars?
No,
we didn't have new cars at the time. But so I took hey, I'm gonna go ahead and put that money in. But again, I go back to being scared that somebody's gonna run off with my money, and if we get divorced, we gotta split this. But 75% of mine, at the end of the day, I signed an agreement to be with somebody, and you have to let those insecurities within yourself go, and within your relationship, essentially, because you have to trust this person. If you don't trust this person, you shouldn't be married, or you shouldn't have a partner. And I do trust him, and I've always said, even at the end of the day, if we were to get a divorce or something, we were to split up, I don't believe we would do it the fair way. I don't believe he would run off with all of our money at all.
No, I wouldn't do that. But for people who are thinking like, oh, I ain't got that kind of trust, then I can see why you wouldn't make that decision. Like, in a lot of situations in my work capacity, I talk to a lot of men who are the primary breadwinners, and they say stuff sometimes like, well, if she want to go, she can leave, and because they know that she's gonna be in a, I would say, precarious situation once she leaves. And so, he's leveraging the power that he has, and he's using it as a way to manipulate. Now, I'm just saying that because it's it's problematic. It's like because I don't have anything to say about what you thought. Once you said we was good to go, then I put half of my little $2 in there. And then you made everything else work.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, the way we handled it was, in the beginning, it wasn't what I really wanted. I was not on board. It made me nervous. I was scared, but I had to pull back and realize this is somebody I'm married, and this is somebody I trust. And if I trust him, I should be able to take that next step with that. But we still have separate debit cards. I spend what I want to spend. Now, we make huge purchases. We have that conversation, like his 75-inch TV he wants, that I'm just semi-aligned with. But we working through that. But we working through that, like I said. We working through it. But all in all, we still manage our money, but we have money for this household that can help build, and also for the future for our children.
Absolutely. So some of those problematic things. Look, people that's hoarding money. If the 2 people, 3 people, if you in a throuple, or if you just a couple, or if you into something else, if y'all gonna be one unit, then y'all need to there shouldn't be any ambiguity. Yeah, y'all should know, it shouldn't be any ambiguity of who's doing what, who has what. It should be free flowing. By all means, have your boundaries as far as how much you're gonna spend. As far as like, hey, if I want to spend something $100 or more, some of y'all may be, millionaires, so it may have a different numerical amount. But it shouldn't be any reason why, two people in a relationship can't go and spend money without getting the okay with that amount, especially if y'all already communicated these things. I've seen that become an issue. So, and it's a sensitive subject because no one really wants to come out and say, well, I can't go out because I'm on a limit, and I've seen people say they can't go out because they ain't got no money. But I know X, Y, and Z, and I know y'all got money because I hung out with that person that got money, but y'all can't go out. And I'm like, something ain't right there. So, like, there's many ways to do something right, and there's many ways to do something wrong. But if there isn't a firm foundation and trust, man, y'all are just failing.
It'll be a struggle. You can always turn stuff around, but it will be hard.
You failing, like you scoring a D minus, but like she say, some extracurricular, activity. You might make it to an
extra credit.
Extra credit. You got a lifetime.
But just think about it. Think about what's happening. And think about how your partner may feel when you say those things about them not being able to spend or putting this limit. Now, I mean, if your limit is, hey, you can't spend this because you can't pay your bills, different story. But if it's you putting a limit on somebody because
that control may be there for a reason.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily control. It's an agreement upon the relationship. Now that's communication, right there.
You gotta communicate.
Yeah, that's the communication. So
don't hide. If one person got all the access to your finances, then don't say you got the money when you don't, and then that person's spending money because you're trying to do anything for clout.
Okay.
Babe, that's it, man.
Yeah, I do want to say one more. I know you talked about it, but this is like a very emotional phase for me where I see men specifically, I don't know like how on the woman's side, but where men make that feeling of women not being able to spend their money because they are the breadwinners in their household. So the man being the breadwinner, but the man uses that money to control them, like to your point, which you said in the beginning. Like that's something that eats at me every time when I see it. You can see it in their eyes that they know they have this control and that they know that they can hang that over someone's head. And no shade to military, but because I grew up around it, I've seen it. And I grew up in a military neighborhood, so I've seen it in the neighborhood on top of all of that, So, and I see it now. So, it's something that I really hope that men reevaluate those situations. Although you may be the breadwinner, don't forget that this woman, just because she may not bring in as much income or no income at all, she's still building your household and she's still making your household run. So trying to hang over someone's head about what you do, what you make is not right in the relationship. It is not fair to you or her.
And 9 times out of 10, if she leaves, she taking half anyway. So mind yourself. Mind yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
And it just isn't right.
It ain't right.
It's just not right. So I have to say that's something that's very near and dear to me because women are, I think, that we are very strong people, but for some reason, I think that piece, man, when I hear or I see that, it makes me so angry. And I just don't know how men can act that way in front of somebody you say you love and you say you care about and dangle that piece in front of them or dangle finances and money in front of them. So that's my little say so about me and problematical with that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? And for all them people that's talking about their baby daddy and that he a scrub and that he don't do this and he don't do that, it's messed up. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for men to talk about their finances, especially when they ain't got a lot. It's very difficult because you have all these expectations of branding, and the reality is, the person's struggling more than what you may think. So, not giving any excuses for people that's not doing what they're supposed to do. But at the same time, a little bit of compassion goes a long way.
Not making judgments before you really know all the facts. Just looking high level.
Yeah. Well.
All right.
That one was deep.
That was deep, but it's a good conversation, because I think it's a good conversation starter and makes people think about, hey, maybe I should reevaluate. Maybe I should think about doing this. And I hope that you all took something away from that. And the way we do it doesn't necessarily mean it's right for you, but the biggest thing is communication and trusting each other. So that's really what I would say, take away from that. And maybe some little tidbits about saving.
Yeah. All right. So this concludes our topic on finances. We appreciate you for listening. Please, how you say it, babe?
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Married and Unfiltered. Like, subscribe, and comment. Ew, I got it this time, y'all. I'm getting good. Watch me next time.